Good morning, everyone. This is Navy Mike again with another GMC 2011 Acadia Denali. I posted, or will be posting, the radiator replacement. Hopefully someone got something out of that. As you can see from the other video, I did a lot of cleaning up, just wiping it down with some basic water in the rag so it looks a lot better. The bumper and everything is back on. All the clips are in, and I was pretty happy with the job, except the radiator. I think I said this on the original vehicle. The aftermarket radiator did not have two small little clips that go in the center top and bottom of the radiator, which is no problem. They figured that was just a waste of time to drill that little, what looks like to be maybe an 1/8 inch hole in there for that clip right there. But that's no problem. You got the bolts on the sides and plenty of clips in other places. But today we're going to be talking about the same vehicle, replacing the front rotors and brake pads. A lot of people save money when they go in and they have somebody just throw some new brake pads on there because they thinking that is the problem with the vehicle. But actually most of the time the brake pads are good. It's the rotors who are bad. Simple little test to see whether or not they're going to meet any state standards or below the spec is to run your finger across this lip right here. If I can feel the edge of this lip and it's not smooth, then in fact, then you know it is probably the rotor is below spec. And then when you go at high speeds and trying to stop, and they're going to overheat, they're going to shake and rumble just because there's not enough metal there. As you can see, here is a new rotor, and it actually does not have any lip on here. It's smooth across this top surface and everything else. So that's a simple way to tell. A lot of people also look at the front side here and say, oh well, it looks smooth, it shouldn't be, it's probably your brake pads. Most of the time all the problems are in the back here. And if you can see that, you can see already that I have this brown edge up here on this edge right here. This side normally wears down a lot faster than this front side because that's the side that actually your pistons for your caliper that are in here are pushing this way. So it's going to push that brake pad up against this side, and this side is just really reacting to what is being forced on this back side. So always, if you're going to look at your rotors, look at this back edge here. And my recommendation is, once when you feel this edge right here like I do, don't just replace the brake pads. You're only wasting your money. Go ahead and get some new rotors and put your rotors in here. Now I'm showing you this at this stage. This is the old rotor. Again, I'm going to be replacing it with that new rotor and some new pads over here. So, but I want to show you the simplicity of how easy it is really to replace brakes and the amount of tools that you need. Those are all my tools right there. As you can see, I may not use that big ball peen hammer, but sometimes on these big vehicles, these rotors do lock up and everything. One of the tools that I want to make sure that you see is this special tool right here. This one right here, that is designed, that is a impact screwdriver right there. Okay, that's very important because this screw right here is normally inserted with an impact screwdriver like that. And what it does, it has a locking mechanism. To turn it off, you push, this thing actually pushes in. You probably can hear that. That pushes in to give you some torque, so when you turn it out, it applies a lot of torque to loosen that screw up. When you go to tighten it, all you do is turn it like you're tightening it, and then take your ball peen hammer and whack it right on this end, and it's gonna turn it like this. It's gonna turn it so it's tightening, tightening, tightening. And that's why sometimes people will try to use a simple, as you can see, this is a Torx head. I think it's a Torx 10. They try to just use a regular socket or Torx head with a socket and everything, and they can't get it off, and that's because it's applied in here with this Torx screwdriver. So that's probably one of the tools that you would definitely need. Sometimes when people put them back in, they do not put them back in with that impact. I do, because I know I have the tool to do it. Some other important things are get lots of brake cleaner. I do a lot of cleaning when I'm doing that, so because of the dusk and everything, I don't want to smell it. I want some safety gear with me, so I have on my gloves. Hopefully you can see it. I have my mask on. Hopefully you see that. Will be putting my mask on. I normally wear safety goggles, but I just have my regular glasses on this today. So so there you have it. I've got some brake fluid, a couple of different style ratchets, some in different sizes too, you know, 1/2 inch and 1/4, and then I've got a long breaker bar, which I'm going to use to break the nuts on the back of this thing. So that's basically about it, and some brake disc quiet, which I'll show you on the final product. And another important tool that we're going to see is a bleeder. Now I want to go over this bleeder here real quick, because I'm probably not going to show you this in the video, but at the end of, I see a lot of mechanics don't bleed brakes when they finish them. There's going to be some air in these lines when you push these calipers in. You got to get that air out of there, or you don't want a pneumatic lock in your hydraulic brake system. So this is real simple. What I do is just loop this little $9 and something gadget here. You see it has a tip on there. That tip is gonna go into, I'm gonna just drop that dust cap down there. That is gonna go into this bleed hole. This is your bleeder right there. Okay, if a mechanic is doing your brakes and he is not doing this, then you probably got a bad mechanic, or a mechanic that just does not know. So this is at the end of it. Matter of fact, let's go show you. Now let's stay right here, because I want to show you the end product on the next video. So what I do is I'll put this wrench, which is a 10 millimeter, and as you can see, it's a ratchet style, so I can do it quicker. You put that over that hole. Okay, I'll explain this horseshoe clamp here in a minute. You put this in the hole. Now just say these are all new brake rotors and brake pads. Okay, so now everything is tightened up, new caliper. I did all my cleaning and everything else. So just imagine this is a new set, and you'll see this in the end video. I'm gonna go over to my brake pedal, and I'm gonna pump it up several times. I'm gonna push, because I'm gonna collapse this piston. So now these two pistons, this one has 2 of them in here. So now I gotta use the brake pedal to push this piston back out. And if you can see my fingers, it's kind of like this effect. It's squeezing on this brake rotor to stop the vehicle. So I'm gonna push down on my brake, you know, maybe 20 times or so. Then what I'm gonna do, and that's gonna create a buildup of pressure in my hydraulic line right here. Okay, so now I'm gonna come over. I'm gonna keep this tight up against this, and I'm gonna break this nut. And what you'll see is, you'll see the hydraulic or the brake fluid come out and it'll start rising. Also, you're going to see little bubbles in your brake fluid. You want to keep pumping up several times until you get all that brake fluid added, the air bubbles out of that line. Now, when I do it the first time, I'll tighten this bleed valve back up. Then I'll go back to my brake pedal, pump my brake pedal back up, okay, and then I am going to come back over here, open the bleed valve up again, watch the brake fluid go up, and if I see any more bubbles in it, I'm gonna keep letting it rise. I'll close it again. I'm gonna go back over to my brake pedal. I'm gonna pump it up 20 something times. I'm gonna come back over here, repeat the process again. Open my bleed valve, open it up, and everything. I got the ratchet the wrong way, but I'm gonna open it up, let the brake fluid come up. When I do not see any more air bubbles in there, I know I have all the air bubbles out of my line, and this brake is gonna be tight. So in a nutshell, that's what very important about bleeding your brakes. Now, let me get rid of this, and then we're gonna go to why I have this horseshoe clamp on here. Another important piece of equipment. Now, this is the start of my project. Now, first of all, I have my wheel. Notice how my wheel is turned. It's turned like this into me. Okay, because I want to get to the back of these nuts. To replace this rotor, there's 4 nuts you have to take off. 1, 2, and then 2 more the same size down here. 3, and then the other one is right here, back here. Okay, what that does is the first 2, these smaller ones right here and up here, okay, or up here, will allow me to remove this caliper. I'll flip it over and just hang it right here, okay, and get it out of my way. Then I'm going to break the 2 nuts here and down here, which are different sizes. Okay, so one's a 13, these are 13 millimeters, and then I think your other one is a let me see here, I am using a 13/16. So that's a 13/16, which fits pretty tight. It could be a metric, maybe a 19 or something like that, but my 13/16 really fit. And sometimes they are not metric, so you have to see. But make sure you're using the right tool and getting a tight fit, because if you're using the wrong tool and it's loose, you're gonna knock the edges off of here to grab it and turn it, and then you're going to be in trouble. So what I'm going to do is, remember I said this piston or this caliper has 2 pistons, 1 on each side. So I have my horse clamp. I'm going to squeeze this caliper in, this piston on one side, and I'm going to do it kind of evenly. Then I'm going to switch it down to this side in here. I'm going to squeeze that one. I'm going to squeeze until I get it all the way collapsed. Why do I want it all the way collapsed and not just enough to get the caliper off? That's because when you go to put your new rotor and your new pads on, if you only collapse it this much when you or let's say if you only take it and collapse it this much, if you can see my fingers moving, that may not be enough to get for the thickness of your new rotor and your new brake pads. Therefore, you're going to have to push the pistons all the way in, squeeze them with the horseshoe clamp all the way in order so that way when you have your new rotor on, when you go to put this caliper back on, it'll slip right over your new rotor and new brake pads. Again, if you don't push those pistons all the way in, you'll never get them on there. Some people beat them on there. No, that's the wrong thing to do. There are measuring tools that you can measure the thickness of your